Harrison Ford has never been one for grand statements. His manner is measured, his words chosen, with the same precision that marks his best performances.
The good news is Harrison Ford is fine, he feels great.
There is no indulgence in nostalgia, no hunger for self-mythology. He carries himself like a man who has little interest in revising the past, only in recalling it as it was. When he does speak about his influences,
on the rare occasions I've got anything to do with it,
he does so with the same restraint that has defined his career. He does not offer long-winded explanations or florid tributes, but he is unambiguous about the actors who shaped his approach to the craft. "I admired their work," he has said simply.
"I would have done it myself."
And it is clear from the way he speaks that admiration for him is not a casual thing. It is not something handed out freely, nor is it based on reputation alone. It is earned. The men he most respects did not build their careers on theatrics. They were not the kind to demand attention with extravagant performances or overpower their co-stars with sheer force of presence.
It had such a strong moral register. I think that's why I would say it's very nearly my favorite film.
They worked in a different way, with an authority that did not need to be signposted. There was a quiet intensity to what they did, an ability to command the screen without apparent effort. They never seemed to act so much as they seemed to exist, their characters drawn with an honesty that needed no embellishment. This, more than anything, is what Ford has sought in his own work.
Shut the up!
It is easy to see why one role in particular left such an impression on him. It was a character defined by restraint, by a certainty of purpose that did not need to be loudly expressed. There are performances that shape an industry, and there are performances that shape individuals, and this was both. It had a strong moral register, Ford has said, a statement that reveals as much about him as it does about the film itself. Gregory Peck's portrayal of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird
Will the defendant please rise and face the jury?
Is one of those performances that lingers long after the final scene. It is not an easy role to play. In the hands of a lesser actor, Finch could have been reduced to a mouthpiece for noble ideals, a collection of fine speeches rather than a living, breathing man. But Peck understood that quiet conviction carries more weight than oratory. He played Finch as a man whose strength was in his resolve, whose sense of justice did not need embellishment.
I am confident that you gentlemen will review, without passion, the evidence that you have heard.
Ford has spoken about how deeply he was moved by the performance, and it is not difficult to understand why. There is no false modesty in Peck's work, no sense that he is trying to be admired.
To which I had a very strong reaction and can remember vividly how I felt. It would be To Kill a Mockingbird. I think it had all of the elements of a great film, and it had a moral sort of. It had such a strong moral register. I think Peck was remarkable. He had It was impossible to see him act. He just didn't do it. He brought truth and vivid storytelling to the screen, but he was. I don't think he was so much interested in performance as he was in storytelling. I admired him greatly.
Finch is not interested in glory, only in doing what is right. He does not seek conflict, but when it comes to him, he does not back away. That kind of characterization requires absolute control, a refusal to lean on the usual tricks that actors use to draw attention to themselves. It is the kind of performance Ford himself would later be known for, the ability to hold a scene not through grand gestures, but through an unshakable presence.
Are you looking forward to watching a Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really. Ford has never been one for characters who wear their emotions on their sleeve. He has always been drawn to those who keep something back, men who are defined as much by what they do not say as by what they do. It is the reason that another performance, in a very different kind of film, resonated so deeply with him. Gary Cooper's role in High Noon,
"The judge has left town, Harvey's quit, and I'm having trouble getting deputies,"
is the kind of performance that does not demand recognition. It does not shout for attention or insist on being remembered, but it stays with you. There is a quality in Cooper's work that feels almost effortless, an ability to communicate everything that matters without saying a word too many. It is a style of acting that has become increasingly rare, replaced by performances that rely on visible effort, on the kind of obvious intensity that leaves no room for subtlety. But Cooper knew that real strength does not need to be signposted. He played Will Kane as a man who does not seek admiration or validation, only the knowledge that he has done what must be done.
I sent a man up 5 years ago for murder. He was supposed to hang.
Ford has always been clear about why he admires High Noon. It meant something, he has said, and there is weight in that statement. The film was more than a western, more than a simple story of one man standing against the odds. It was a statement of defiance, a response to the moral cowardice of its time. In an industry where silence had become a means of self-preservation, High Noon was an act of resistance. Cooper played his part without fanfare, without any need to underline its significance. He simply was. That ability to exist within a role, to make a character feel not like an invention, but like a man who has always been there, is something Ford has carried into his own work.
You know, I can't.
You can't say what's going on?
There's nothing. I can't talk about.
It is there in his most iconic roles, in the characters that have defined his career. But even among those, there is one that stands apart. The assumption has always been that Ford is closest to Han Solo. It is an easy comparison to make. The character is a rogue, a man who survives on wit as much as skill, and there is something in his sardonic edge that seems to fit with Ford's own reluctance to indulge in Hollywood's self-congratulation. But Ford himself sees it differently. When asked which of his roles he prefers, his answer is immediate: Indiana Jones.
I'm Harrison Ford. These are some of the biggest moments from Indiana Jones.
There is a crucial difference between the two. Solo is a man who is pulled into heroism almost against his will. His first instinct is self-preservation, and even when he does the right thing, it is often with the air of someone who would rather be anywhere else. He is not driven by a need to seek out danger, only by a reluctance to be left behind. Indiana Jones is something else entirely.
Him after the passage of the 15 years that actually exist between the last film that we did and this one.
He is a man who cannot help himself, who is propelled forward by his own restless curiosity. He is not looking for recognition, but he is looking for something: knowledge, understanding, the sense that he has uncovered something that would otherwise have been lost. And when he is faced with a moral choice, there is no hesitation. He acts not because he has to, but because he cannot do otherwise. That is what separates him from Solo, and that is what makes him the character Ford most identifies with. Jones is not cynical, not detached. He cares deeply, sometimes to his own detriment. He is not afraid to be battered and bruised in pursuit of something greater than himself.
That should do it.
There's an incredible clip of you stapling your hat to your head.
I still have the... See it? Yeah. You do what you need to do.
That is not the mark of a reluctant hero, but of a man who has already made peace with the path he has chosen. The actors Ford admires most understood that kind of character. They knew that heroism is not about speeches or grand gestures, but about the choices a man makes when no one else is watching. They did not need to announce their presence, only to inhabit it fully. It is no coincidence that Ford has followed the same path. His finest performances are not those where he reaches for the audience's approval, but those where he allows the character to be exactly what they are. That is what he took from Peck, from Cooper, from the films that shaped him. The understanding that great acting is not about performance, but about presence. That the most enduring characters are not those who ask to be remembered, but those who refuse to be forgotten.